together, what is this, what parts do you see here, why is it constructed this way, why do we know that this is valuable, like, it just really questions to get them talking about what they notice. So, so do you have any other suggestions?
I think those were three really key areas that I wanted you to implement somehow into this flow.
Yeah.
Again, it was having an opportunity for them to critique.
Yes.
Having an opportunity for them to be involved in inquiry around paragraphs.
As far as critique goes, I'm still trying to work out what the best way for them to critique their own work would be, because do you think working in pairs, like a writer's dialogue?
I mean, that would be nice. I think if you haven't done a lot of it, the best bet would be to start on an overhead with actual student writing up on the board and saying, let's go through this together, and sort of modeling what that looks like.
So like I should
maybe
ask,
giving them specific questions that sort of frame the discussion, right? So that they can use these same questions when they're doing their own critique. And keeping those questions focused on what you want them to get out of it, right? So, you know, obviously you wouldn't ask a question like, so, this is a good paragraph. You ask more, focused questions.
does this paragraph have
yeah. But, and then the other piece that I mentioned that I think we need to keep in mind is the inquiry, critique. God, I just lost it. It was in my head and then I lost it because I kept on talking. I do that all the time. Inquiry, critique. Criteria, identifying criteria.
Yeah, okay.
So rather than you telling them what the criteria is, which
Open the discussion.
could be part of it, but they really should be involved in identifying it themselves with your guidance, obviously, and facilitation. All right.
Okay. Awesome.
There was one other thing I did want to talk to you about quickly. This is not really related to this lesson. Is I looked at the Faculty Pinnell levels that you gave me on Friday, and spent some time over the weekend just thinking about where your kids were. So, as I look at this, I highlighted those students who were obviously below grade level expectations as far as their reading is concerned. And so that those are the students that fall within the NO, anywhere up until that T. Because technically you'd expect them to be beginning of 7th grade around UV. V would be actually more appropriate. So I'd like you to just focus in on these students who are highlighted and think about how you're going to work with these specific students, whether it be in sort of a book club, guided reading, but I need you to be thinking about these students. And then likewise, I need you to be thinking about the students who are at Z, instructionally, what are we doing to challenge them and not keep them bored, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just something to think about. I mean, we'll go over this as a school, middle school. We'll talk more about it, but I just wanted you to be thinking about how are you addressing these students, because the reality is that if they're reading this low, you can already predict that on the assessment, let's say assessment, they're not going to make a 3. So, again, intensive methods are in order.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Now, it also means that for me, as I think about the tutoring that I'm trying to put together after school, these are the kids that I would definitely want to
Oh,
target
yeah.
for the tutoring. And then,
And many of these kids come up to lunch
right.
with me and work on stuff.
So, you know, also think about if you're interested in doing an hour during enrichment to do, you know, get paid for it, to do some tutoring. But it would have to be very focused tutoring, and I think at this point we probably adopt some sort of program.
Yeah,
to
I'd
help
love to.
them. Okay.
Yes, definitely. And Friday we have
The PLTs, and we're
PLT.
meeting as a humanities department.
okay, and that's at 2, so the kids get let out
The kids
earlier.
will be dismissed at 2, and we'll be meeting from 2 to 3.
Okay.
And I'm gonna sit in on that PLT because there's a lot we can do. Okay? All right, so I'm gonna take these back, but if you could
I have
okay.
copies.
But any student that's not, you know,
That's below like
below
a U,
a
T and U.
T and U, I would sort of put a
Next
little
week I
flag on.
start pulling
Yeah.
in, or even tomorrow.
And then you've got kids here, see, who like are like literally, you've got a series of kids here that are on level Q,
right, so
right?
they would
And you might bump this person in and like create some kind of a, you know, guided reading group,
Yeah.
book club even. But again, I'd probably have to work with you on just what does that look like, what are you actually teaching?
So I guess my question about that we can talk about at a later time, is just how do we set this up so that every student realizes that their needs are being met and that they're not? Like I had a whole discussion about tracking versus non-tracking classrooms, and I think that it's great to have them learning all in the same classroom, but how, like, can I get these kids invested in progressing their learning and bumping up their reading level without making the other kids feel like they're not being included, or?
Well, I think all students, every single one of your students should have a reading goal.
Yes.
There should be
They
some
do, yeah.
discussion. And a reading goal that's, you know, not just, oh, I'm gonna read more, or I'm gonna, you know, be an 8th grade reader by the time I finish, but very, very specific goals.
Okay.
And even if that includes a actual action plan for their goals, like what specifically are they working on? And this, you know, has to do a lot with conversations with them that you have, when they're engaged in independent reading and you're having conferences with them, that's the discussion. So I'm noticing that when you read blah, 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 that's part of like how you're gonna set the goals based on that. I mean, it would be great if they could be like at a point where they know exactly what they need, but in some cases they might not.
Yeah.
So it might be a conversation,
Yeah.
right? So based on the last 2 times I've talked to you during independent reading, this is something that's come up. I'm noticing that, this is what we have to work on. And then developing sort of an action plan.
Okay.
It could be an action plan based on like what, you know, you could differentiate it in terms of how they're going to respond to reading versus another student, what specifically you're going to ask them to respond to in their response notebook. You could tailor it to what you know they need to be working on. But, you know, again, those goals are established together, not just, you know.
They just don't tell me.
Right, yeah. Because I mean, even when you're working in your master's and you have a coach, you guys talk about it, right? Like, based on their observation of you and your own, you know, sense of where you are.
So,
And I could, you know, I'm happy to come in and model a conference.
okay,
What that might look like.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
that would be great.
Okay?
Okay, great. So I'll email you tonight with more of my lesson, what I get done. And
Okay.
I'm gonna start it tomorrow, and it's gonna be going on throughout the week. So whatever you.
So by the end of the week, what are you expecting from them?
I'm expecting them to be able to tell me, or to understand what's in a paragraph, how to construct the sentences, what order they go in, and to be able to write one in a timely fashion.
Okay.
Hopefully that'll help them. Tests and all that jazz. All right, thanks,
Thank you,
Stephanie.
Jennifer. Can we,
Yep. Bye.